Okay, this is a rebuttal for Scott. I want to start off that I don't actually have any issues with people that eat meat. I agree that I find it quite dissettling that the kind of Nazi kind of vegans and vegetarians that push their views onto you. I find that quite annoying, as you do yourself. I'd like to address what you talked about in your video, as well as conclude why I'm actually a vegetarian. There's a few things that you talk about in your video. You talk about humans being the top of the food chain. You talked about if there was, an animal and a human near a cliff, who would you save? Obviously the human. That's because of the survival instincts of saving your own. But I'd like to ask a question. If once us higher valued humans have killed ourselves, I'd say probably the animals, they'd probably be left, and perhaps the environment that they live in. It's probably their simplicity that will be their survival, because they haven't created things like nuclear weapons. And remembering that we did evolve from those animals with opposable thumbs. As far as I'm concerned, murder is just a classification, and you seem to know what that is. So if people want to know what that is, then it's a killing of a human being, not an animal. So what I want to address is the intention of the killing. I come from Australia, and Aboriginals in Australia have been eating meat for survival for thousands of years, a long time, and they actually eat our national emblems, the emu, which is an ostrich type bird, and a kangaroo. They also eat crocodiles, turtles, things that by law white Australians can't. Their intention is survival, and they only eat what they need. They take the utmost care and respect for the land and its inhabitants. The core difference between Aboriginal Australians and British colonised countries is that they only eat or use what they need to survive. So there is some left for next time, and they don't really have the concept of exploitation. That's a white thing. So I do agree with you that eating meat is a natural concept, but I'd like to raise the point that with the development of technology, and many belief systems of other cultures, it's not at all necessary for us to survive. So I also agree that eating meat is not detrimental to your health. Just like drugs, sports, sex, if it's done in moderation and safely, it's quite fine. It's actually healthy. But what is detrimental to the world's health, Mother Nature, is the livestock industry. So for starters, you're killing animals, and animal cruelty is, as far as I'm concerned, disgusting. You're not killing because you need to eat the animal. You're killing because they need to make money. I totally agree with Peter 777T that it uses an enormous amount of the world's natural resources, and the science to back it up, that it's using 20% of the world's greenhouse gases, livestock emissions, which is more than transport. And that leads to a whole area of, environmentalist type issues. The last point you make in your video, if livestock production for consumers wasn't such a lucrative business, would you actually eat meat? You know, if it wasn't so easily accessible, if you couldn't just go down to the local supermarket and buy your packaged meat wrapped in, cling wrap with the styrofoam tray, you don't actually have to eat it. It's not. It's not essential for us to survive. So it makes me wonder that, you know, you sort of put us on the pedestal as being the top of the food chain and the best thing on earth. So if we are so great, then why do we do something that we don't need to? That doesn't make sense to me. I do find it ironic that you claim he thought vegetarianism was superior, far more superior than eating meat, but you think you're superior for being at the top of the food chain. And since becoming a vegetarian about 10 years ago now, when I was a teenager, I've discovered that there's a whole bunch of other foods out there that I would have never have tried had I not have become vegetarian. And plus, then you sort of think about, well, you're talking about why it tastes good. That makes me question, you know, why does it actually taste good? What are you actually eating? Is it meat? You know, or is it the hormones that they've pumped into all the poultry in their, caged, enclosures to make sure that they do get to the right size by the time the next batch has to go out? You know, what's in their food trays that the cows eat? You know, what are they actually putting in these animals to make them taste good, to keep you eating them? I think you've really differentiated domesticated animals from animal production for human consumption. So for you, they're two completely separate things. But I kind of want to ask, do you think that non-domesticated animals don't have feelings? If a calf has its mother taken away for slaughter, or it sees its mother get slaughtered, or anything like that, don't you think that the animal would be missing that family member, whether it be a brother, a mother, a father, a sister? You know, don't you think that that animal would have some kind of feeling to what's happening at that current time? Maybe if you look into Pedro's eyes and you ask him, does he feel anything if you used him as a puck and took a slap shot? The concept of differentiating between domesticated animals and non-domesticated animals is obviously quite a clear thing for you, but you know, they eat dogs in China. I don't really have any issues with people that eat meat. I don't argue that it's unhealthy, but I'm against the industry because of the environmental impacts it has, and I'm against animal cruelty because I don't differentiate between domesticated animals and non-domesticated animals. And I want to have a cow, and I want to have a sheep, and I want to have a kangaroo, and I want to have an emu as pets. And I don't want to eat them, but it's the intention. If you're killing the animal because you need to survive, like the Aborigines in Australia, and they have respect for their animal, and they only kill what they need, then that is okay. But for me, being a vegetarian now, when I don't need meat to survive, and no one needs meat to survive, then the right thing for me to do to make my difference is to not eat meat. So that's why I'm a vegetarian. I look forward to your response.